It was thought, over the objection of Hap Arnold, who was in charge of the Air Corps at that time, that blacks didn't have the ability to do complicated things, or leadership, etc. We knew that was wrong.
Under pressure from the black press, the NAACP, and even his own wife, President Roosevelt relented in 1939 and ordered the civilian pilot training program to be open to black students who wished to become civilian pilots. In December of 1940, the War Department followed suit and appropriated $1 million to build a suitable base to train black airmen at the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. They called the effort to train these men an experiment. The men bonded immediately, imbued with a sense of common purpose and racial pride.
Although the Army didn't believe in our capability, they didn't change the training standards, and that was a plus for us, that we were able to meet the standards and perform successfully.
And World War II gave us a chance to go into combat units and do a first-class job so that the larger population would realize how silly and stupid segregation was.
In April of 1943, the first full squadron of African-American fighter pilots, the 99th Fighter Squadron, received orders for deployment to the Mediterranean Theater of Operations. By June of 1944, the 99th had joined 3 other all-black fighter squadrons. Together, they comprised the 332nd Fighter Group, known to history as the Tuskegee Airmen. August 24, 1944. American B-24 and B-17 bombers of the 5th Bomb Wing approached their target, Pardubice Airfield in Czechoslovakia. Escorting them are 52 red-tailed Mustangs of the 332nd Fighter Group, the Tuskegee Airmen. Among them is Lieutenant Charles McGee, flying a P-51C nicknamed Kitten after his wife. McGee leads a flight of 4.
We were out to the side and slightly above the bombers. Our squadron was on that date operating, as I say, out to the side, weaving back and forth sufficient to be able to look around at all angles, not just flying a straight line.
McGee will soon square off against a battle-hardened foe. Over a German airfield set ablaze by American bombs, McGee will find himself in the fight of his life, a fierce encounter against a tenacious enemy that will test his combat prowess as never before. August 24, 1944. Lieutenant Charles McGee of the 332nd Fighter Group, the Tuskegee Airmen, flies escort for American heavy bombers. Their target is a German airfield in Pardubice, Czechoslovakia. McGee and the rest of the 332nd have battled hatred and ignorance for the privilege of flying combat. Each mission is a chance to prove their worth to a bigoted military hierarchy. As Pardubice comes into view on the horizon, McGee searches for the enemy.
Attacking a aerodrome like that was a great way to scare up some enemy opposition, and that's what happened.
McGee's squadron commander calls out 2 FW-190s at 4 o'clock high.
My flight was dispatched to go after them. They were actually attempting to dive into the bomber stream.
McGee and his flight turn to engage the 190s. They're about to go toe-to-toe with Nazi Germany's most advanced single-engine fighter. Focke-Wulf 190 is a tough and agile opponent, heavily armed with two 13mm machine guns and four 20mm cannons. McGee flies an early model P-51 Mustang, the P-51C. Even though it lacks the refinements of later Mustang models, it is still a formidable fighter aircraft. With a top speed of 440 miles per hour and armament consisting of four 50 caliber machine guns mounted in the wings. McGee's P-51C is faster and more maneuverable, but the FW-190 is more rugged and has better armament. The 190s are here. McGee and his men are here. McGee's best option is a slicing right turn that will position him directly on his opponent's tail.
I took off after the plane to try to get a position to fire on him, and the plane continued in a dive.
The Mustangs close with the enemy. But as soon as the 190s spot the danger, they split up. McGee takes his wingman, Roger Romine, with him after one of the fleeing Germans. The desperate German pilot fights for his life, rolling, diving, jinking, anything to shake the Mustang.
The enemy aircraft went for the deck as fast as it could and started engaging in a series of evasive maneuvers, trying to get Charles into a scissors battle, going back and forth and trying to shake him that way.
They're doing a little turning, we call it jinking around, to get us either to overrun them or lose us. I was able to control speed enough to stay, but trying to close to a firing range, because you're just wasting ammunition if you try to fire too soon.
McGee exploits the P-51's speed advantage and closes on his enemy. But the dogfight is getting dangerously close to Pardubice.
The German pilot dove towards the airfield and led McGee across the airfield, which was by this point burning from the bombing raid. And again, the idea was for the German pilot not to engage McGee in some air-to-air combat, but to drag him across an area where the German flak could open fire and perhaps take out the American fighter off his tail.
I can remember over the aerodrome, I could see one of the hangars on fire and some planes on the field.
Flak bursts all around him. The anti-aircraft gunners are zeroing in. McGee will soon be forced to break off. But suddenly, the German makes a critical mistake.
He made the fatal turn going around to the right, which appeared to me he might have been trying to escape through some of the smoke and so on that was coming from the field, but it was the wrong turn because I happened to be right in the right position at that time to effectively fire on him.
McGee opens fire. His 450 cals make quick work of the German. The 190 shudders sickeningly, then rolls. The wounded Focke-Wulf hits the ground in a brilliant explosion.
That was my first victory, and of course, right then your adrenaline is pumping pretty well, and like I say, you know there's fire from the ground, and so the idea was to not fly a straight path, but keep moving, but flying away at low altitude to get away from the guns that were around the airport.
Romine, who had been separated from McGee through the chase, rejoins his flight lead. The victorious Mustang pilots return to their position in the bomber stream.